and impact of that research with this group. I would love to know, each one of you, what is your area of research in work integrated learning? If I can tie those pieces back to my presentation, I think you'll see connections in the work a little bit better. Who would like to start?
Can I start?
Shabnam, go
first?
ahead, please. Yes, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Songtham. I'm a PhD student. My area is productivity improvement. So I would like to focus on the impact of view and innovative thinking to drive the productivity in terms of the Thailand country. That's all
Wonderful.
for my key area. Thank you.
Wonderful. So what I'm going to talk about today, sustainability. For us, it's about driving sustainable productivity in Canada. We want the industry, we desire, or we hope that the industry sees value in sustainable product design, product management, and then our responsibility is to develop those green skills or sustainability skills in our students. So it's one lens in productivity. Thank you for sharing that. Manirit, would you like to go next?
For me, so I will research about wellness for students who want to be an entrepreneur.
Aha, okay. Entrepreneurial co-op. I don't know if you've heard of e-co-op at the University of Waterloo. Our students are given the opportunity to do one co-op work term of 4 months, but they have to come with a plan. They have to come with a mentor. And then there are workshops, there is programming to get them set up for that work term. And then at the end of the work term, they have to reflect on how they are going to take that idea and now turn it into a more scalable version at the end of 4 months. So wonderful, wonderful, Manirat. Welcome. I'm thinking of my sustainability work. It doesn't touch more on e-co-op, but as we go through the presentation, if you have questions about how entrepreneurship intersects with sustainability, we can definitely pick up that discussion.
Thank you.
Sirerat.
Thank you. Say everyone. Thank you for providing me chances to be talking for the beginning of the class. So you can hear me well. My name is Edward. I am from Cambodia, and I am now doing my PhD courses in cooperative education at the Serenity University of Technology, Thailand. Concerning my research areas, seeing the benefits and opportunity and employability of cooperative education. I have plans to
Sorry, Sirerat, I'm not hearing you very clearly. Your voice, the sound is
It's noise.
double. Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So I don't know what's happening. And I'm sorry, I didn't catch your area of research at all.
I need to maybe this. Sorry.
I think the problem is your earphone. Please change earphone, please.
can't hear you at all. And it doesn't matter if audio becomes a problem. If you don't mind typing your area of research, just so that I don't miss it, that would be terrible. Thank you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Infinitely more clearly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. I would like to introduce myself again. My name is Sererot. I am from Cambodia. Currently, I have been doing my PhD courses in cooperative education at the Surrey University of Technology, Thailand, and seeing and knowing about the benefits and like a job opportunity and employability of cooperative education. And there is no cooperative education program in Cambodia. I have planned to conduct research for my doctoral thesis regarding the integration of the cooperative education into Cambodian higher education. I focus on opportunity, challenges, and future direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. So this research, what I shared today, we like to think of it as going beyond employability and beyond employer gains, which are the two traditional measures of successful work integrated learning, or as you call it in Thailand, CIWI. Cooperative and work integrated education. Traditional measures are how employable are the grads, or what's the gain that the industry is getting from these kind of programs. And then the sustainability lens and all of that, we consider to be one step ahead, deepening the value of those traditional measures. Peng, please go ahead.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, clearly.
Okay. So for me, I'm thinking about assess the student internship experience, effectiveness of the internship experience, and based on the finding, I also would like to study about the way to improve the internship programs in the context of Myanmar education setting, because I am from Myanmar. So in Myanmar, we don't have the CB system. So maybe I learn the system now, and maybe after that, how can I adopt this system in Myanmar education system to be able to work well?
Right. What I've learned with my career at Waterloo is it's always easier to bake something in at the beginning, like start with the right pieces, then have to add something in afterwards. So sustainability for us was an add-on 50 years after we started the program. I think it took us longer to do something meaningful with it than had we started with sustainability. But I think 50 years ago, nobody cared about sustainability. Nobody saw what the challenges of the world might be. All right. Dr. Smitra, would be lovely to know what's your area of research too, if you don't mind. I know Dr. Ratit's, but I don't know yours.
Okay, no problem. Actually, right now I'm interested in study on the employability skills. Compare the student before they get into the program of the preparation, before they go to the cooperative education program, and because for example, in SUT, we have the preparation program before they go to the workplace, right? We would like to test them before they go to this program, pre and post, how about the employability skill that they have before and after they get into the preparation program, how is it increased and how much increased, and this is the first phase, and after that we might like measure after they go into the workplace, they did the CV in the workplace, is it will be like increased or not, and how like significantly after they work in the workplace after that.
I see. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. All right. So here's what I thought I'd do. Dr. T, tell me if this works for this class, if it falls within your vision. All of you have read one paper and have written reflections on that one paper, which is great. But research doesn't exist in isolation. Everything that you're doing, all the research that you're doing, you want to apply it somewhere. You want to see it become a program. You want to see it become a movement. You want to see it practically applied somewhere. So what I thought I would do is I would give you the story of before that paper, touch on the outcomes of the paper a little bit, and then give you the story after that paper, because a lot happened before and a lot has happened after. And then show it all together as program design. This entire journey started with one question in 2018, and today it's an award-winning program, not just research. It's available to more than 25,000 students and 9,000 employers every single year. And there's lots of impact, which I will also speak to as well. So rather than just talk about the one paper and that point in time research, demonstrate how a research question, a curiosity, can become a full program. Does that work? Dr. T, that's okay for your class? Yes, perfect. Okay, I will share my slides and so while I'm sharing slides, I won't be able to see your questions or your hands if they go up. If you don't mind moderating, Dr. Teet and Dr. Smitra, just call me in the middle of whatever. We don't have to wait till the end. We can take questions alongside. I think it'll be a more interesting dialogue. Okay. So my entire talk is about sustainability in work-integrated learning. Work-integrated learning is also referred to as SIWI in Thailand and many parts of the world over there, cooperative and work-integrated education. I don't think there's much difference, except that the terminology is differently used in the two jurisdictions. In Canada, we start any of our presentations with what we call an acknowledgement. We have a big Indigenous population, and over time, many injustices have happened. This statement is, I don't give the statement because I'm supposed to. I give the statement because it truly means something to me, and I do hope to see reconciliation between our Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. So I acknowledge that much of my work at the University of Waterloo takes place in the traditional territory of the neutral Anishinaabe and Haudenosaunee peoples. Our main campus is situated on the Haldeman Tract, the land granted to the Six Nations that includes 6 miles on each side of the Grand River. Our active work towards reconciliation takes place across our campuses through research, learning, teaching, and community building, and is coordinated within our Office of Indigenous Relations. What are the outcomes of investing our time here today? I always say time is the one irrecoverable resource. Every minute you have spent is 1 minute you're never going to get back in your life. So let's make every minute count. You've read this paper. I have also put the link. I'll share the slides with Dr. Teet after so that you have a copy. Today, I'll talk a little bit about Waterloo and its co-op program. A little bit about why we should care about sustainability. It's not just a nice to have, it's a necessary piece in work-integrated learning. I'll go over how we are enabling change through the co-op education program at the University of Waterloo, a little bit about where we are headed, and then a lot of questions for this group. I'm happy to answer your questions, but I also have questions for you because all of you are deeply involved in work-integrated learning. We're big. We're big because the university started more than 65 years ago as a co-op university. We say co-op is in our DNA. So our first board of governors were half industrialists and half academics. Term after term, we've had almost a 96% co-op employment rate. Things are tougher now than they've ever been. $310 million in co-op student earnings annually. And that's because we do more than 25,000 work terms across 120 programs every year. These are annual statistics. We have more than 9,000 employer partners across more than 75,500 countries. We're very proud of our bilateral agreement with SUT, Bilateral Will Agreement. It's the first of its kind for us on campus. It's not net new to the field, but it's net new to us. So we look forward to delivering on that agreement. But it's one of those employer partners across 75 countries. Year after year, we are showing up as #1 on experiential learning, on the power of partnerships with the industry. And here is the big statistic. 67% of all reported international work terms across Canada, not Waterloo, not the state of Ontario, across Canada, go through the University of Waterloo. And that's my original home team before I also moved on to all of domestic co-op. How does co-op work at Waterloo? This is the diagram. We have a trimester system. That means each semester is 4 months in length. This is one of our most aggressive sequences. It's called the study work sequence. Every WT is a work term. For our engineering program, for example, there is no regular option. Students have to be in a cooperative education option. And this sequence is, for example, from the engineering faculty. Students start their university with 4 months of study. During these 4 months, they're also recruiting for their first work term. They finish the work term and they come back to their second semester of study. At the same time, they're also recruiting for the next work term. They're back in school for their first semester of the second year. At the same time, they're also competitively recruiting for the next work term. It's a very aggressive schedule, but once they get through all of this, they graduate with up to 2 years of paid, relevant work experience. Within Canada, we have national definitions for work-integrated learning. Co-op is one of the 9 forms of work-integrated learning. Just type in CWIL Canada in Google, WIL definitions, and you'll get a beautiful document for that. At Waterloo, students compete for jobs and employers compete for students. So it's the simulation of the real talent marketplace. Here's the thing. These multiple experiences, right? 6 of them, they foster broad exposure, adaptability, resilience, and entrepreneurial attitudes. And here's what happens. So every 4 months, our students are competing to get a job. They get into the workplace. They very quickly have to figure out who's my supervisor, what's my team, how am I bringing value to the work, because they do get a performance evaluation at the end of their work term, which becomes part of their academic record. So they deliver that value, they're the best they can be, and they're out again recruiting for that next opportunity. That's resilience on steroids. Getting in, figuring it out, getting out, getting in, figuring it out, getting out. And every time they get into a work term, they're looking at industry problems. Sometimes they think they're being solved well. Sometimes they think they can solve them better. And that's what leads to that higher entrepreneurial attitude, the thinking that, well, so-and-so employer has this way of solving the problem, but I can do it better. Now, for each of these work terms, our students also get career support. They take a professional development course that's tied to our Future Ready Talent Framework. There are 12 competencies in the Future Ready Talent Framework. And then at the end of the work term, they write something called a major reflective report, which is the reflective device. So Dr. Nora McRae's thesis, her PhD in Will, she proposed the PAIR framework: pedagogy, experience, assessment of learning, and reflection. So within Waterloo, all those 4 pieces consistently happen through any given work term. Moving on to sustainability a little bit. At Waterloo, there's a very strong sustainability ecosystem. We have a dedicated office, the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, which is UNESCO's, or the United Nations body for helping higher education institutions advance the SDGs. So SDS in Canada's headquarters are at the Faculty of Environment at the University of Waterloo. There is active work going on campus to integrate sustainability across the curriculum, not just work-integrated learning. There are various centers and institutes like Waterloo Institute of Sustainable Energy, Waterloo Institute of Sustainable Aviation. Within our community itself, we have great partners and employers like Green Economy Canada. You should certainly take a look at their website. There's a Waterloo Global Science Initiative as well that advances work in the SDGs and many more. And then with our 9,000 plus partnerships, many in the industry focus on sustainability. In fact, every semester since the time we've started this SDGs at Work program, I have a bunch of employers that reach out and say, we are proud to hire from the University of Waterloo because our values align. Those are those deeper outcomes that go beyond employability and employer gains. So internally, we were trying to figure out, how do we connect the power of talent to global challenges? And the SDGs encapsulate these global challenges, the Sustainable Development Goals. We very quickly realized that our maximum impact can happen at an individual level by adopting a purpose-based approach to work-integrated learning education. I won't go into more detail over here, but if you have questions about purpose-based approach, I'm happy to answer them later. And then over time, at a societal level, we hope to build a global network of change agents who can advance sustainability through their careers. This individual impact or influence, again, mostly happens at an individual level with our students, where our literacy, our pathways of engagement that we can help create for them, helps them have direct impact, whether at a community level, whether at a global level. The work that they do could enable an organization to have more impact. So that's the next step now that we can't control much, is organizational impact. And then over time, perhaps with their experience, with more authority in their roles, they can reach a place where they're changing systems to allow for greater impact. I often get asked why the UN's SDGs and why now? Well, we know that these are an urgent call for action to mitigate global challenges that are threatening humanity itself. There's deep urgency to finding timely solutions. And we believe that as part of the future workforce, solutions discovery and implementation for a healthy society and planet will be in our graduates' hands. In some ways, I think of me, my career, my time has kind of come and gone, but these are the generations that will have so much influence on how we evolve as a planet and a society. The other question I get often asked is, why embed sustainability in will? Well, for 2 or 3 very good reasons, because every contribution one makes towards sustainability, this can be as an individual, in a team, as an organization, community, society, globe, doesn't matter, is a step forward towards designing a sustainable future for all. In my lifetime, this is probably the biggest collective action movement that I have seen, where everyone can do something and every contribution matters. Our research has shown that it positively influences the perceived value and impact of the internship, and this is part of the paper that you also read. We recommend that students do the SDGs at work activity in partnership with their supervisors, but they can also engage on their own. Earlier on, we did have a few companies that reached out to us and said, what do you mean you are judging me on my sustainability contributions? And we said, no. What we do is only to develop sustainability literacy and skills in our grads. It's not in any way a comment on your sustainability direction. You do you, it's your company. Nobody's going to influence anything with your company. Okay. Just making sure that you can still hear me, yes? Okay, good. For a minute, I thought I'd muted myself. Okay, so the story before that paper. In 2018, Times Higher Education first started ranking institutions on their sustainability contributions. And our central planning office, I think, came to us and asked, how many of your work terms happen in not-for-profits and non-government organizations? And we asked them, why do you want to know? And they said, well, the university is getting ranked on this measure, so we thought this is a good way to show what our contributions to sustainability are. At that point, there wasn't much time, so we went ahead with that response, but that made us take a deep look at what truly could be our sustainability footprint. If we are doing 22,000 work terms back then, my goodness, think of the impact it could have on sustainable action. And we had no idea how to even begin measuring it. So I pulled together our sustainability office, that Waterloo Institute of Sustainable Energy, WICSI, and said, well, I have some data on work terms, employers, job descriptions, student satisfaction. Can you help me understand what the footprint of this might be on sustainability? Each one of them took a different approach. Some applied the 232 indicators. One of them came up with their own classification system, and one of them used 2 other known impact measurement systems. There was nothing we could just take and apply to the data that we had. It became very clear very quickly that in 2018, awareness in itself was a key challenge, let alone engagement. I still remember most people did not immediately know what SDG stood for. Everybody knows that now. Big difference, but way back then you had to tell people United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So we pulled these three approaches together to create a guided conversation activity to help our students develop greater awareness of sustainability and develop sustainability literacy. It's one thing to be aware, and it's one thing to know what to do in a given situation. We went with guided conversation because it's an easy, free-flowing exchange of information and ideas between the intern and the supervisor. It's not overhead heavy. You can be having lunch and you can still learn and then apply that later. For us, the big thing was that it's a teaching and learning opportunity for both the intern and the supervisor. We took that conversation activity and then handed it off to 3 faculty members in our Faculty of Environment, whose key areas of research were SDG related. Incredible feedback, all of which we applied to that final activity. So the idea is that, and I'll go through it in detail, that the supervisor and the intern are having a structured conversation that mutually builds their capabilities in sustainability. This guided conversation has question stems in 4 dimensions. So we call those the sustainability awareness and literacy dimensions. The first 3, 1, 2, and 3, are all organization related. The 4th one is actually the internship experience and the intern's sense of agency or ability to make change. Once I'm done with the presentation, I'll share the workbook with you. It's freely available and give you a few minutes to go to the workbook and situate yourself. Now, the SDGs at Work program in itself is designed to drive awareness, literacy, and engagement. These 3 pieces are part of our sustainability impact framework. I'll come to the framework later because that's how this entire program evolved. We started with an open question, we came up with an activity, we designed a program, and that led to the definition of a sustainability impact framework. With our numbers, it was very important that any activity be low resource, be easily scalable, and naturally high quality. So the awareness has some milestones to it. The awareness happens through comprehensive resources and workplace exposure, literacy development. We do a webinar at the beginning of the semester. We tie in that sustainability literacy to campus and community. The engagement happens to the workplace opportunities, that dialogue, the conversation with their supervisor, whatever that depends. There's some supervisors who don't want to participate. At the end of the work term, we do a debrief and skills articulation workshop. Students and supervisors are invited to fill in a longer survey. They're also asked 1 impact question, and I'll come to that later. And then students can do some optional reflection about their sustainability contributions in their professional development courses. What you see up here is the timeline of when these activities take place. So the things that happen at the beginning, in the middle, at the end of the work term. And the idea is even after the work term, the connection with sustainability continues. So all in all, a key part of this journey was developing deeper sustainability literacy in our grads. The activity itself is to develop that greater awareness of global challenges and engage via work experiences. Now, we say SDGs, but that same framework, the same questions can be applied to ESG, which is a more corporate lens on sustainability, triple bottom line, which is a more profit-driven lens on sustainability. So it says SDGs at work, but can be applied to other sustainability frameworks as well. And again, the thing that stands out for us is that both the intern and the supervisor are building knowledge in partnership. So what does that activity cycle look like? It starts with an introduction to SDGs at work. At the beginning of the work term, it's a half-hour webinar. Students and their supervisors are both invited. It's not mandatory. Our students then are advised to engage in some self-reflection and baselining about one's knowledge of the UN's SDGs, which is section 1 of that workbook that I've been talking about. They ideally confirm participation with their supervisor, or this can also be done by themselves. They meet with their supervisor and exchange perceptions, or they can continue by themselves. Section 2 of the workbook has those guided questions in the 4 dimensions. They can learn more about the organization's sustainability efforts and how one can contribute. Again, there's that guided piece in section 3. We also have the planning of some post-work term actions so that they can stay engaged with sustainability even after the workplace experience is done. We asked them to respond to an impact question in their student performance evaluation. So the supervisor answers that question. I'll go into detail in 2 minutes. And the student answers that same impact question in something we call the work term recap. These are both electronic forms. They're both invited to also complete longer surveys if they're interested. And then students are invited to participate in the end of term experience debrief and skills articulation webinar. So about those longer surveys on which the reading that you did is based, we used multiple choice questions where possible. This was a pilot that we did only with we did for 4 semesters with international work terms only, so not Canada and USA. I'd say in a given year, we had about 11 to 1,200 of these. So all in all, I'd say about 1,600 work terms received the pilot. And then the data that you've looked at is 2 semesters, not even 4 semesters. All numerical scale questions were designed on a scale of 1 to 6, with 0 not applicable. In a standard survey theory, don't have odd numbers. People tend to go to the center, have even numbers so that they're forced to choose one side over the other. The questions were in 4 areas: awareness building, some impact measurement, the influence and further direction of the intern and the supervisor based on this activity, and then a little bit of feedback on the engagement. How is the instrument? How is the process? What would you improve? Right away, you'll see that we had a very low response rate. This was the early pilot, and really response rates haven't increased much since then. One of our questions is, how do we improve engagement? So the outcomes of those surveys, interns on the intern side, they increase their awareness of SDGs pre and post activity, which tells us that this activity was doing what we set out to do, build awareness. Our students were also motivated to engage with the SDGs, which suggests to us that this activity is a powerful way for future SDG engagement. And the highest benefit of engaging with the activity was increased knowledge of the SDGs. Again, the activity was doing what we set out to do. The good thing was, the incidental impact was that this led to many students indicating that they desired to apply SDGs in their future coursework, engage in campus activities, seek future will terms related to the SDGs, so that sustainability piece was becoming deeply embedded in their way of thinking. Again, the activity was doing what we set out to do. When it came to the supervisor, there was an increase of awareness where the organizations were engaged with the SDGs. All the SDGs were impacted. SDGs 17 and 4 were those where the interns had the most impact. I'm not surprised with 4, it's quality education. 17 was surprising to me, it's leadership for the goals. But and then the top reasons for engaging with the activity for the employers, they really liked the learning value. It helped them deepen their engagement with their interns. They wanted to develop future SDG best practices within their business. Again, a little bit of that influence, and they really wanted to make a positive impact within this realm. All right. So as we proceeded with more maturity in our activity, we realized that it was all coming together as an impact framework for global challenges. So I don't know whether as part of your PhD work, you have looked at something called the AAA Star Quality Framework. It's the Canadian national standard for for embedding quality in work-integrated learning. Within Waterloo, we have the Purposeful Work Framework for career exploration. And then we have the Future Ready Talent Framework for competency assessment. So skills competency assessment. So the idea of putting the frameworks overlaid with our SIF, the Sustainability Impact Framework. I know it's a lot of frameworks, but what I wanted to demonstrate here is everything ties in well together, and that's how it should be. It means that what you're developing is riding on the shoulders of giants. So our aims for developing this were to develop sustainability awareness, literacy engagement, and then to measure sustainability impact. What we hope to achieve through the framework is to connect sustainability-related talent to industry need. We know our research tells us that these generations want to deliver impact faster. They want to see the value of their contributions faster. For us, this is a great mechanism for them to see tangibly how their actions are having impact. The third reason there was to enhance the value of co-op and will beyond employability and employer gains, and then naturally to have the deeper, more meaningful engagement with campus. These achievements and these aims are activated to the SDGs at Work activity. Those are the 4 dimensions, the guided conversation activity, that entire life cycle of the activity that we went through. Okay, so we've talked about the awareness, the literacy, and the engagement a lot. let's dive into impact a little bit. So at the end of the work term, this activity went from pilot, the 4 semesters of a pilot with international work terms, to the entire co-op program. So at that point, we were 25,000 work terms, 9,000 employer partners last spring. So that would be May 2023. Now, at the end of the work term, employer supervisors and student interns are asked the same question, slightly differently. Students are asked to select the SDGs they believe they impacted during their work term. Employers are asked to select the main SDGs they believe their students' work impacted during that work term. For both versions, multiple SDGs can be selected. Respondents can also select none, or they can skip the question entirely. We also send messaging to both that reinforces nothing bad will happen if you don't respond. Nothing bad will happen if you select no. Don't worry about credit. Don't worry about the relationship. We just want genuine answers. If you feel you don't want to answer this question, don't worry. Don't answer it at all. We actually tell both the client groups that. So here's what happened. In 2 semesters, so this data is spring 23 and fall 23. In 2 semesters, from students, we had more than 8,000 responses, of which 58% reported that their work impacted at least one SDG. And this is despite telling them, don't worry, if you don't feel like answering, don't answer. And then for employers, across more than 3,000 organizations, almost 16,000 individual responses, where 66% reported that their students' work had impacted at least one SDG. This tells us that this question matters to people, it matters to students, it matters to the employers, they're taking it seriously. And what you see over here is that overlay of employer and student responses. I won't go into the details of why they're slightly different, but there's good reason why they're different. So the after story. So this is the previous story so far, and then your paper that you read, and now the after story. What we ended up doing is at our end, for every job, we gather NAIC and NOC. I don't know if you know what these mean, but NAICS NAICS is an industry classification system, and NOC is the NOC, role classification system. So this will tell you role, and this will tell you occupation, national occupation classification. I have some outcomes over here. You haven't read the paper. It's being presented at the WACE IRS next week, so that's why it's not published yet. But I thought I'd just share a little bit over here. And then all of what we see about the SDGs intersecting with industry and role classifications is very aligned with the technical nature of our school. We are largely a STEM school, so we see things like computer systems design and related services, industry innovation and infrastructure. The SDGs intersect with NAICS and NOC in a way that just reinforces, yep, we are a STEM school, that's why we're seeing these intersections. We've also broken these out by faculty and level. So if you don't mind waiting a month, I'm happy to share that next publication in this series of program publications. What we're very grateful for is this work has been recognized globally. Way back in 2022, it won the best paper for research design at WACE. We won the QS Quacquarelli-Simmons Medal for Sustainability Education, and we were the coveted Pioneer finalist for Sustainability Impact last year. We've also pulled in more than $1 million in funding through Canada, through private donors, because of the thematic value of embedding sustainability in work integrated learning. And I'm given to understand that this program is leading the practice of many peer institutions. The workbook is free. I've talked about this at a bunch of conferences. Nora has talked about this at a bunch of conferences. So it's an inspiration block for people trying to embed sustainability into wealth. What are we planning to do with all of this? There is great interest from faculties to find out, okay, so what is exactly my group of students doing? We want to share this by student dimensionality. I recently presented at IEEE's EDUCON conference about specifically our engineering faculty and the impact that they're having on sustainability. We compared it with the rest of the cohort, and there's some very marked differences. Again, if you're interested in that paper, happy to share. Should be published in. No, it is published already. I should be able to share it. We want to get a deeper understanding of impact using AI. You know, all this data that we're collecting, what can AI tell us that we're not seeing? How can it connect sustainability to will outcomes? Within our campus, our new president has instituted the Futures Framework, 5 futures, if I remember them: sustainable futures, technological, health, 2 more, I forget on the fly, but 5 futures. We want to see how we can modulate that towards the futures framework, embed ESG more meaningfully in the activity, like take it beyond the developmental goals connotation. And then finally, that deeper dive at connecting the need of the industry to sustainability skilled talent more effectively. So I don't know if you want to take a screen grab of this, but these are some of the questions that I had in mind for our group. I would love to get your perspectives on, you know, how can we make the program more engaging? How can we move the intention from SDG to wider sustainability? What might make employers lean into the program more meaningfully? And what does such a program mean for interdisciplinary work integrated learning in terms of skills development for the students and employer engagement for the employers and the industry? That's my email. You're more than welcome to write to me anytime. I love talking about this, and I love to learn more about things that are happening in the rest of the world regarding work integrated learning. With that, I will stop sharing and come back to the bigger screen. I see some comments here. What a shame they cannot. No worries, no worries. Sumitra had to go, Dr. Sumitra had to go, no worries at all. Thank you very much. I'm happy to connect with her if she's interested after. Thoughts, questions, perspectives?
Professor, you said you were explaining about the purpose-based approach to will education. So can you explain more about this?
Sorry, the what-based approach?
You
Purpose-based.
said, yes,
Purpose-based,
you will
correct,
explain
correct.
later.
Okay.
Yes.
Have you heard about the Ikigai approach of Japan?
Yes, I heard it, but
Okay.
not much in detail.
Okay, so our purpose-based approach is based in the Ikigai approach of Japan. So there are 4 pieces to it. What do you love to do? What are you good at doing? So sometimes what you love to do might, I love to sing. You think I can sing to save my life? No, I'm not good at singing, but I love to sing. So sometimes what you love to do is very different than what you're capable of doing. Both of these things can be measured. There are different psychometric tests. There are different ways to explore what you love to do and what you're good at doing. Then the 3rd quadrant is, how do you apply these things in the world? Which is, how do you engage with the world? So at Waterloo, our biggest pathway to engagement is our co-op program. That's how you're going to apply your skills and your internal motivators to something. And then these 3 pieces, what you love to do, what you're good at, and how you're applying it in the world is going to have some impact. So the intersection of these 4 pieces is called purposeful work. The impact, so far, we are measuring through the Sustainable Development Goals, advancing the 17 global problems. That's helpful?
Yes. So basically, what we have to figure out what we love to do. Even with we love to do, we have to think about we are good at this or not. Then,
Correct.
so we have to think about is this skill really applicable and how we can engage to the world. Then, so
Correct.
what will be the impact from that?
Correct.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a very good explanation of how it works, Pink. Very good. Yes, please. Go ahead, Liam.
Thank you, Professor. I have observed your presentation. It has been very great. I have noticed something. I have been very interested in all the points, but one point about looking to the future, and in this main point there are sub points, and one of the sub point it is about getting at deeper understanding of impact using AI. So here, can you tell me some more thing about pros and cons? I mean, advantages and disadvantages of this section. I just want to know more about getting at a deeper understanding of impact using AI. Can you tell me more about advantages and disadvantages? Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So in a given year, we can have more than 50,000 job descriptions. It's not physically possible to go through each of these to identify what kind of sustainability related skills is the industry asking for. Because not everybody will use the term sustainability. Some might use governance, some might use social action. There's a lot of synonyms that apply to sustainability. Our students, I think there's 1 million applications made in our system every year to these jobs. Our students are using resumes and cover letters to highlight their skills, their competencies, and their interests. It's not possible to go through these one by one and get a greater sense of the sustainability related skills that our entire talent pool has. So I want to take generative AI and feed it all these job descriptions and ask the question, simple question. In the tech industry, for example, in the tech industry, what sustainability-related skills are most in demand? In the life sciences industry, what are the sustainability skills most in demand? So go through it sector by sector. In manufacturing, in health technology, in arts, in art history, in anthropology, like go through it sector by sector, maybe program by program, and try to get a deeper sense of what is the industry need for green skills. On the other side, I want to do the same thing with our million applications. At what faculty, what program, at what level are our students self-identifying some green skills? And then the third piece to that is, what is generative AI saying about matching need to the talent that's available? Had there been 10 applications and 5 jobs, perhaps we would have been able to do it manually. Perhaps Excel might have done, even if it was 100 jobs and 1,000 applications. But the scale that we're talking about needs technology's help. It's not going to do it all by itself. So that's the use of generative AI to better understand matching industry need to green talent. All right.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. For this group here, what are your thoughts about this entire program? How can we make this better? Are there any improvements that you've identified? My aim is to make this better. I think what we've done is good, but there is a lot of scope for improvement. And feel free in giving me your critical analysis. It's very welcome.
Professor,
Sangam, please go ahead.
can I share my past experience?
Please do.
I was working at Japanese company since 2021. They mentioned SDG to all associates. How do workers apply for their current job? But for the Thailand, I think about Thai company or the local company, all of them ignore about SDG 17 goals actually. And can I ask Maniras, Kun Maniras, how about your hospital? How about your workplace? Explain or mention about the SDG for associate working at hospital or not?
So, Sangam, what you're saying is very true in North America as well. I find sustainability has been deeply adopted by Europe. It hasn't been deeply adopted by North America. There is a lot of research, like published research, on this concept called greenwashing. Greenwashing basically means companies will say things about sustainability that aren't always reflective of what's actually happening in sustainability. But they want to look good to their shareholders. They want to drive some profit margins ahead. They want to recruit good talent. So there's greenwashing that happens. And sometimes companies don't quite really even understand how to report in sustainability, and they do it incorrectly, not because they're planning to do it that way. It's just that they don't know how to do it better. And that results in greenwashing. So your question was in hospitals and medical settings, how does sustainability play out, correct?
Yes.
Okay. There is a lot of affirmative action, I think, in hospitals and the medical industry. There's a lot of realization of what sustainable product development, product management, end of product life cycle management is, but there isn't as strong a regulation in North America as there is in Europe. So till that regulation doesn't come to North America, those that want to will drive sustainable action ahead, but those that don't want to, there is no requirement, legal or regulatory, to compel them to.
And the other topics. Last year I went to Japan. All services company such as hotel, restaurant, and zoo, all of them mentioned that they are implementing SDG to achieve the target with their company policy.
Japan is also doing a lot more than North America, I'll give you that. The one thing I find that happens a lot in North America is to offset the cost of sustainable action to the end user. So there's a lot of what I see called carbon offset costs. So, for example, when you register for a conference, you can pay $25 to a carbon offset company. So they take that money and they invest it in sustainable actions, advocacy, that kind of thing. This has come under criticism as well as it's also appreciated. But the country that you're talking about, Sangtam, is deeply dedicated to driving sustainable action ahead. That level of dedication, that depth of dedication, I don't believe is in North America just yet. It's coming. There's much greater awareness. There's much greater desire to advance sustainability. But these countries, Europe, Japan, are miles ahead.
So that
Professor,
okay.
Sorry.
So
It's
that
okay.
I think we should enhance the basic knowledge or fundamental knowledge of SDG to students in
Correct.
the elementary level first.
Correct. That's what we're trying to do. You know, bring change from the bottom up. This is the talent that's going to be in the industries. Make them aware, make them literate, help them see the impact, give them pathways of engagement so that by the time they finally end up in the industry and they adopt those careers, they already have that change agent mentality. Absolutely. You nailed it on the head, Sant.
Okay, Paisu, please. Sorry.
Professor, in your presentation, you explained that. So you asked the interview question to the employer and the student. Student answered that they think they contribute one of the 17 SDG goal. Employer also said the student also contribute one of the 17 SDG goal. So I have two questions. The first one is how you design the question to reach this target. Because if we can ask directly, do you think you can contribute one of the 17 SDG goals? I think students cannot answer it. So I'm quite interesting how which approach you use to ask this question. And the second one is, are they the same or not? Student answer and employer answer of the contribute area the same or not? Thank you.
So you've asked a very good question. The whole quality piece comes up all the time with the impact question. So Ping, every employer, every student gets a message from us at the beginning of the work term that this activity is available to you. Here are the reasons why you should participate. If you don't want to, that's fine as well, but we think this is why it's good for you. So throughout the work term, that SDG, sustainability is being repeated over and over. At the end, when we ask them the question, that question has resources right under it. It says, this is connected to the SDGs at Work program. Here is a little bit about the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And if you're still confused about both of these things, contact me. All right. At the end of the day, it's a self-report. We have to do a self-report because, again, look at the scale at which we do things. I'll need to hire 4 people just to manage the survey if we took any other approach to it. So some of our approaches are not, I won't say they're still qualitative, but they are designed to handle scale more than depth. So that's the reasoning, how we ended up with that question and why we think that people who respond to the question know what they're talking about. Okay, sorry, what was your other question?
Is the answer the same or not, student and employer?
No. Do you remember the graph that I showed you where the yellow and the black were not always lining up?
Yes.
So one example I can give you is that the employers choose SDG 4 a lot more than our students. All right. We think that's because they look at work integrated learning as part of a degree, as part of education. So the fact that they're providing that work integrated learning or co-op opportunity in their mind translates to this is impact in SDG 4, right? Whereas our students, one of the big drivers for doing co-op is, yes, it's employability, but they're also looking to get a paycheck. It helps them pay their tuition the next semester. So for them, they might think of SDG 8, gainful employment, as one of the things that was advanced by the work that they did on the work term. So perception and understanding of intention can impact the SDGs that are chosen. We have lots of data. I have just started looking at what some of these interrelations might be. And that's the waste paper. That's the IRS 2024 paper. But the next one is going to be that deeper dive on why the yellow and the black don't always line up. I think there'll be differences even by faculty. Again, it's the understanding of the discipline. It's the understanding of the industry. It changes faculty to faculty.
So employers think that quality education number 4 and student focus on terroir work and economic growth section number 8. So
I'm speculating that might be one of the reasons. I haven't formally done the assessment yet. This is just a speculation.
So I think based on the crew who we are asking for and what their background and how they think about the program, where we reflect on which SDG goal they will choose.
You cannot you cannot pull away bias from the entire process.
Thank you.
Very welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
Can I ask about the question that not related with SDG?
Yes, please do. Of course.
Professor, you mentioned the internship period.
Yes.
I think about around six times for students. My question is, the workplace is the same workplace or not?
We encourage our students to try different industries, to try different roles, because that's how you're going to find out what is it that you love to do, what is it that you're good at. Some students do like to go back to their previous internship, in which case we require them to demonstrate how what you're doing the second time is more advanced than what you did the first time. Because between the two experiences, you've now had a study semester. That means you've learned something more. So how are you going to apply that something more?
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
For Thai country, just only once time, just only once.
Any other questions or comments? I think that's all, Shabnam. So I like to conclude the session by say thank you to you for dedicating your evening to speak with us and for delivering such an insightful lecture. I found that those sustainability awareness development both on student and supervisor simultaneously is really compelling. I want to express that the practical and actionable insights you provided were truly impactful. Thank you once again, Shabnam, for a truly inspiring session and for your generosity in sharing your knowledge and resources.
Thank you so much, Dr. Atit. It was lovely spending my time with you, and it all worked out. I'm talking to you from India. So it's lovely in the afternoon, and tomorrow I go back to Canada. And
You are now in India.
I am now in India, correct. I'm 2 hours behind you.
Okay.
Thank you
Have a
very
safe
much.
trip.
Thank you so much,
Have a
Dr.
safe
Atit. Thank
trip.
you, and all the best for a successful PhD. Complete it, get your doctorship, and be successful.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye. สวัสดีครับ
Thank you.